everyone. So I want to start doing this thing called drink and talk about books. Maybe I should come up with another title. Tonight I am drinking this. It is, I already drank half of it, chocolate flavored almond milk with cake flavored vodka. I will be reviewing and talking about the book Divergent by Veronica Roth. And in between filming the last video and this video, I went to the library to drop my stuff off, so I don't have it with me anymore. But y'all probably know what it looks like already, because like I said in the last video, I am pretty sure I'm the last person on the internet to read it. So I didn't rate this book very well. I didn't hate the book, but I found it very problematic, and right off the bat, my first big problem with it was that the author doesn't really use any contractions. And by contractions, I mean I'm, don't, can't, and that kind of thing. 90% of the time, she uses I am, do not, cannot, will not, etc. So that just gives the book a very pretentious tone, and I didn't like that. The author is only 22, or she was only 22 when the book was published, and I think that's pretty young to be writing your first novel. So I'm gonna hope that her future novels aren't as pretentious sounding as that, and I also hope that they have a stronger plot, because the plot is really where the major problem in this book lies. The fatal flaw of Divergent is that all the factions that have been made in Chicago in this world have been apparently made because they are serving the purpose of preventing war from breaking out again. However, the faction Dauntless, which Triss chooses, teaches their members to fight in hand-to-hand combat, use guns, and do all this crazy crap, which doesn't really make sense to me when you're creating society in order to make peace, but yet you have this faction where everyone's learning how to fight. I'm going to talk about some things I did like about the book. I really like the friend characters in it. I especially like Christina. Her character was just funny, and she was a nice foil to Triss. Overall, the setting and the concept was interesting enough. I just found that there wasn't enough world building, and I had a lot of questions about why the factions existed and why they had to do all these initiation processes, and I just kept asking why throughout the entire book. Every time they did a stunt in the Dauntless faction and stuff, why they were jumping off trains and jumping onto them, I just kept asking why. And it was never really answered. I also saw some people reviewing this book saying that they really hated Triss. I actually didn't hate her. I found that she wasn't developed enough at the beginning of the book. I didn't really understand why she was picking Dauntless or who she was before she went into Dauntless, so I kind of really was left wanting in that way. And I really just wanted to know more about the character's background and the background of the world that they were living in. And I do understand that it's the first book in a series, but I don't think that's a reason to leave out all of your world building in a book. Like, you should give your readers something. So I think it was those reasons that kept me from really being immersed in the idea of this book. I just wanted to know more about Triss, and I didn't like how every memory she had, she would mention multiple times it was just her mom cutting her hair, and I was like, okay, I really would like to know more about her memories of being in abnegation. I just thought that was uncreative, the way that we only got to see that one memory of hers, which we saw at the beginning of the book. Another thing that really annoyed me about this book was that whenever we got talking about the story or the plot, especially like after halfway through the book, Triss and Four would get up and go make out somewhere, and I would just be like, no, can we please go back to talking about the story? But they had to go make out and do things. And as far as Four's character goes, I wasn't too fond of him. I mean, I didn't hate him, but I also didn't really see the appeal of him other than he's like the bad boy. He was a little bit ridiculous in the way that he was only nice to Triss in person, or in private, but in front of the other Dauntless members he would be a dick. I also just had a hard time buying that he was a virgin. He was like, I think he's 18 or 19 in the book, and he's supposed to be the bad boy, and he's like the coolest guy in Dauntless, and like all the girls and guys sleep together in one dormitory. I just did not buy that for 1 second. I don't understand why characters in YA novels always have to be virgins. I just, it gets so tiring. So another thing I really did like about the book was when the characters have to go into their fearscapes. I think that was what it's called, fearscape. I just thought that was an interesting concept, and I actually felt really afraid during those scenes when the characters were trying to face their own fears, and I really didn't want to have to be in that situation with them. I think another thing that kept me from really loving this book was the whole Dauntless concept. Other than the fact that it doesn't make sense with the idea of the factions being created, I just couldn't picture myself being in Dauntless. I just thought it was silly how it was like the faction for all the goths and punks, and they all had to get tattoos and piercings, and they're all just trying to be so cool and brave all the time. I don't see how they're realistically, I don't see how what the Dauntless did in the book was a representation of being brave. Bravery to me is standing up for what you think is right, not jumping off of trains or scaling a building or climbing on a Ferris wheel. So overall, the book could have been way stronger. I really wish that there had been less mushy scenes. Like, I'm totally fine with the book having romance in it. I just thought that the book became so much about that there wasn't any world building in it, and we lost a lot of the plot. The plot wouldn't stay on track enough because the characters kept having to make out. Like, especially at the end, they're like making out in front of her little brother, and she totally knows that's inappropriate. I was like, ew. So that's my opinion. I know a lot of people really like this book, and I'm not trying to be mean. That's just how I felt about it. To be fair, I have a really hard time with young adult novels. I am an adult, and I never really read young adult when I was growing up, so now I'm trying to kind of make up for lost time, I guess. I think I actually will read the next book because I'm curious to see if the writing does pick up, but it's not in my priority list.